He seemed friendly enough, the kind of stranger you don't think twice about. But if Primera Dinati trusted that smile, I probably wouldn't be alive to tell this story. If you enjoy true horror stories like this one, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon, leave a like, and stay until the end, because the ending will absolutely shock you. It happened 2 years ago, when I was working late shifts at a small grocery store on the outskirts of town. We closed at midnight, and by the time I finished cleaning and counted the register, it was often close to 1 in the morning. The parking lot was almost always empty by then, quiet except for the hum of a flickering streetlight that never seemed to stay fully lit. That night, I was the last one out. My coworker, Mia, had left around 11, and my manager had gone home early because of a family emergency. It was just me, the crickets, and that buzzing light. I walked toward my old Honda Civic, fumbling with my keys. That's when I noticed a man standing near the far end of the parking lot just outside the light's reach. He wasn't moving, just standing there. At first, I thought maybe he was waiting for someone or smoking a cigarette, but there was no smoke, no movement, no glow from a phone. He was facing me, motionless, his silhouette sharp against the dim light. I tried to ignore it, unlocking my car and sliding inside as fast as I could. The moment I shut the door, the sound of my own breathing filled the car. I started the engine and looked through the windshield. He was gone. That should have been a relief, but somehow it wasn't. I reversed out of the parking space, scanning the lot. Empty. The man had disappeared, like he'd never been there. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe he'd just walked home. Or maybe he wasn't even looking at me in the first place. The drive home was short, about 15 minutes. My apartment complex was small, tucked behind a line of trees. I parked, grabbed my bag, and hurried up the stairs to my unit. Just as I put the key in the lock, I heard something. Footsteps. Soft, uneven, slow, coming up the stairs behind me. I froze. My heart started pounding. I turned around, but no one was there. The hallway was empty, the dim yellow light buzzing faintly above the stairwell. I got inside fast, locked the door, and leaned against it for a second, trying to catch my breath. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept replaying the image of that man in the parking lot. His stillness, the way he seemed to be watching me. The next evening, I worked the same late shift again. It was uneventful until I stepped outside to leave. There he was. Same spot, same posture, standing in the shadows, not moving an inch. This time I didn't hesitate. I got in my car and locked the doors immediately. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped the keys twice before starting the engine. When I looked up again, he had taken a step forward. I could see his face now, or a part of Italiano. He was tall, pale, with short dark hair. His eyes, I swear, they were fixed on me, wide open, unblinking. Tennis smiled. Not a normal smile. It was too slow, too deliberate, like he was trying to remember how people do it. I backed out fast, almost hitting the curb as I sped out of the parking lot. That night, I didn't go home right away. I drove to a 24-hour diner and stayed there for almost 2 hours, pretending to scroll on my phone while I tried to calm down. When I finally did drive home, the parking lot was empty. I felt stupid, like I'd let my imagination run wild. But the next morning changed everything. As I was leaving for work, I noticed something on my windshield. A folded piece of paper. Primera unfolded it and my blood ran cold. It was a note. Scrawled in shaky handwriting were the words, "You drive the blue Civic. You look pretty when you're scared." I dropped the note immediately and looked around, but there was no one nearby. I went straight to the police station and reported it. They took my statement, but without a name or security footage, there wasn't much they could do. They told me to be careful, to change my routine, maybe even stay with a friend for a while. So I did. I called my brother, who lived across town, and asked if I could crash at his place. He didn't ask questions, just said yes. For a few days, things were quiet. I still had to work. But I made sure someone walked me out each night. The man didn't show up again. I started to believe maybe it was over. Then, on the 5th night, I got a call from my landlord. He said there had been a break-in at my apartment. When I got there, police cars were parked outside. The door had been forced open, the frames splintered. Inside, drawers were pulled out, clothes thrown everywhere. But nothing valuable was missing. Not my laptop, not my TV, not even my wallet. Then one of the officers came up to me, holding a small item in an evidence bag. A photograph. It was a picture of me taken from outside my bedroom window, and on the back, in the same shaky handwriting as the note, were the words, "You shouldn't have left." I sat there for a long time, staring at that wet handprint on the glass. The rain still pounded the roof, but inside the truck, everything felt too quiet. My heart thudded in my ears as I leaned closer. The print was small, smaller than my hand, but long, almost distorted, like whoever made it had pressed too hard. I wiped the window, but the mark didn't fade. It smeared slightly, as if the moisture was on the inside of the glass, sealed beneath the surface. That didn't make sense. None of it did. I told myself I was just tired, that my brain was playing tricks. I'd been driving too long, too late, in too much rain. Still, every instinct screamed at me to turn the truck around and go home. But instead, I started driving again. The radio, which had been dead since the storm began, suddenly crackled to life. A soft static filled the cab, followed by a voice that barely rose above a whisper. "Still raining, still waiting." I froze. The voice was male, soft, trembling, and it sounded exactly like mine. I twisted the dial, trying to change the station, but it wouldn't budge. The voice continued, fragmented and distant. "You shouldn't have stopped." I slammed my fist against the dashboard, and the radio went silent again. The road ahead was straight and endless, a tunnel of darkness between walls of cornfields. Every so often, lightning flashed, revealing the shape of the world for half a second. The rows of stalks swaying, the glint of wet asphalt, the endless horizon. Then, something darted across the road. I hit the brakes hard. The truck skidded, tires screaming against the wet pavement. My seatbelt locked against my chest as the vehicle lurched to a stop. The headlights cut across the figure, someone standing dead center in the road. It was him, the hitchhiker, soaked, still smiling. I blinked, and he was gone. I sat there, gasping for air, staring into the rain. The road was empty again. But then a sound, a slow, rhythmic thud from the bed of the truck, like something heavy shifting against the metal. I turned the engine off. The world went still. Primera listened. The thud came again, closer this time, like footsteps pacing across the truck bed. I didn't want to check. Every part of me screamed not to move. But I couldn't just sit there. I reached behind the seat and grabbed my flashlight. When I stepped outside, the cold wind hit me like a wall. The rain had eased to a drizzle, and fog was beginning to rise from the wet asphalt. I walked slowly around to the back of the truck, shining the light into the bed. Empty. Just the slick black metal reflecting the beam. But then the light flickered, and for half a second, I saw him again, standing right behind me. I spun around so fast I slipped on the wet road and fell hard, the flashlight flying from my hand. The beam rolled across the ground, stopping a few feet away. There was no one there. I scrambled up, heart hammering, and grabbed the light again. The fog was thicker now, curling around me like smoke. My own breath looked pale in the air. Then I heard it, my name, whispered, soft and drawn out from somewhere behind me. ... Eli ... That's my name. But I hadn't told him that. I froze. The whisper came again, closer. ... Eli ... Get back in the truck. ... It was my own voice. I ran. I didn't think. I just ran back to the cab, slammed the door shut, locked it, and started the engine. The tires screeched as I tore down the highway, my hands shaken so violently I could barely hold the wheel. But I wasn't alone. In the rearview mirror, through the streaks of rain, I saw a figure sitting in the back seat. Still, silent, just a silhouette in the dark. "Who are you?" I shouted, but my voice cracked. "What do you want?" The figure didn't move. Then, slowly, it leaned forward, and I heard the seat creak. The smell returned, that same mix of rain, dirt, and metal. "You took my ride," the voice said softly. I whipped my head around. The seat was empty. When I looked back at the road, I nearly lost control. A shape loomed ahead. Another car, abandoned in the middle of the lane. I swerved, narrowly missing it, and the truck fishtailed before I managed to straighten it out. My breathing came in sharp, panicked gasps. I was losing it. I had to get off the highway. I spotted a small rest stop sign up ahead, half hidden by fog, and pulled off the main road. The area was deserted, except for an old wooden picnic table and a flickering light near the bathrooms. I parked, cut the engine, and just sat there, listening. The rain had stopped completely, leaving an eerie silence that pressed against my ears. For a moment, I thought maybe it was over, that my mind had snapped from exhaustion and I'd imagined the whole thing. But then I saw the mud. Thick, wet footprints leading from the passenger side of my truck toward the tree line. Fresh ones. They weren't mine. I followed them with the flashlight. My stomach in knots. They led straight into the woods. Deep, dark, and silent. At the edge of the trees, something caught my eye. A signpost, half-roted and barely standing. When I brushed off the moss, I saw the words carved into the wood, "In memory of Elijah Brooks, 1997 to 2014. My full name, my birth, year, my death, year." I stumbled back, nearly dropping the light. My mind went blank. I didn't understand. I was alive. I was right there. Behind me, the sound of wet footsteps approached. Slow, measured. When I turned around, I saw him again, standing in the fog just a few feet away. His face was pale, his skin cracked like old paper, his eyes sunken and hollow. He smiled that same slow, broken smile. "I told you," he said softly. "You weren't supposed to stop this time." I couldn't move. The fog swirled between us like something alive, wrapping around his legs and crawling toward me. My flashlight trembled in my hand, the beam flickering over his face. He looked exactly like me, but older, worn down, and dead behind the eyes. "What do you mean?" I finally managed to whisper. He tilted his head, water dripping from his chin. "You've done this before," he said, "over and over. You always take this road. You always stop for me." "That's not possible," I stammered. I've never been here before." His grin widened. "Yes, you have. You just don't remember." The light in my hand started to dim, the batteries dying one slow pulse at a time. My reflection, his face, looked wrong in that fading glow. The skin seemed to ripple like it didn't belong to him. "Primera vez que Hawaii," shaking my head. "You're not real. You're not." Before I could finish, the woods erupted with a sound that made my blood run cold. Hundreds of whispers, all saying the same thing in overlapping voices. "Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop." It was coming from everywhere. The trees, the ground, the fog. I turned and ran. Branches slapped at my face as I stumbled through the forest, the beam of my dying flashlight bouncing across trunks and shadows. The air grew colder, heavier. My breath came out in white bursts. Behind me, I heard footsteps, heavy ones splashing through mud, following me at a steady pace. Not running, just walking, like whoever it was knew I couldn't get away. I didn't know how long I ran. Maybe minutes, maybe seconds. Everything looked the same, but then, up ahead, I saw a dim orange light through the fog. A cabin, old and crooked, with smoke curling weakly from the chimney. I sprinted toward it, pounding on the door. "Hello? Please. I need help." The door creaked open on its own. Inside, It smelled like dust and mold. My flashlight finally died, but a lantern flickered weakly on the table, casting long shadows on the walls. There were old photographs everywhere. Black and white portraits nailed into the wood, and in every single one, I saw myself. My hands began to shake uncontrollably. I picked up one of the pictures. It showed me standing next to that same truck, smiling. Only the background was different. The sky was clear, and there was no rain. On the back of the photo, written in faded ink, were the words, "Trip number 9. He stopped again. My heart nearly stopped. The cabin walls felt like they were closing in. From behind me came the sound of wet boots on the floorboards. Slow. Heavy. "I told you," the voice said softly. "You weren't supposed to stop this time." I turned, and there he was, standing in the doorway, his shadow stretching across the floor toward me. His eyes glowed faintly in the lantern light. "Who are you?" I choked out. He stepped forward. The one who didn't make it home. My legs gave out. I fell back against the wall as he knelt down in front of me. Up close, I could see the cracks in his skin, like something had split him open and stitched him back together. His breath was a scold. When he spoke, "You crashed your truck that night, Eli. In the rain. You never made it to sunrise." "No." I shook my head violently. "No, I'm alive. I'm right here." He tilted his head again, the same way I used to when I was confused. "Then why do you keep reliving it?" My vision blurred. For a second, I thought I could see it. The flash of headlights, the screech of tires, the crunch of metal. The image hit me so hard I gasped. Lightning flashed through the cabin window. For a split second, everything was white. And in that flash, I saw it all. The truck overturned on the side of the highway. The windshield shattered. Rain pouring through broken glass. My own body slumped against the wheel. I screamed. When the light faded, the other version of me was gone. The cabin was empty. The photographs on the walls were blank, just faded rectangles where faces used to be. I stumbled out into the fog, gasping for air. The woods were silent again. The road was nowhere to be seen, only endless trees fading into the mist. 10 Primera, EA, RD, at the sound of an engine in the distance. Headlights cutting through the fog, a pickup truck slowed to a stop on the dirt road ahead. A man leaned out the window, calling into the darkness. "Hey, you need a ride?" His voice was warm, friendly, familiar. I took a step forward, heart pounding. The light hit his face, and I saw myself behind the wheel. He smiled. "It's a long walk in this weather." The realization sank in like ice. I wanted to scream, to tell him to drive away, but my mouth wouldn't move. The fog wrapped around me, thick and cold. I reached out instinctively and found myself walking toward him. When he unlocked the passenger door, I climbed in. The rain began again. He glanced at me, still smiling. "Where are you headed?" I felt the words form on my lips before I even thought them. "Home," I said. "Not far." For a moment, the two of us sat there in silence. The radio crackled faintly in the background, whispering words I couldn't quite make out. Then, softly, my own voice echoed back through the static. "You shouldn't have stopped." The man behind the wheel froze. His smile faded, and as we drove off into the dark, I turned to the window, watching the world dissolve into rain. Deep down, I already knew, no matter how many times I tried, I'd never leave that road. If you've ever picked up a hitchhiker, maybe think twice next time, because some rides never end. They just start over. If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more true horror stories. And stay tuned. The next one might make you think twice before stopping on a dark road again.